I call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. To start this meeting, I will now read the Township Land Acknowledgement. The Township of Adjala-Tosorontio is situated on the lands within the Treaty 18, being the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, including the Ojibwe, Odaatwa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. This land is home to many diverse First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge Indigenous people as stewards of the land. We honor their resilience as well as their culture and our shared respect for the lands, plants, animals, and waterways which sustain us all. We recognize the injustices against Indigenous people and are mindful that the decisions of government impact our shared land and all the inhabitants. We commit to reconciliation as a journey, foster Indigenous cultural awareness and educational opportunities, establish respectful and healthy relations with Indigenous people, continue to steward the land and its inhabitants, and cultivate an inclusive community for all. I would like to take an opportunity or a moment to welcome our recently appointed members, Sierra Mahoob and Shen Fernando, to the committee. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge Marilyn Boyd has resigned from the committee and Councillor Cox was appointed as a voting member at the April 9, 2025 regular council meeting. We thank Marilyn for her time and dedication to the committee. Are there any additions to our agenda for this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will move to the adoption of the minutes. So item 3.1 is the adoption of the agenda. The recommendation reads that the agenda for the Community Development and Event Committee meeting held on April 28, 2025 be adopted as presented. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Cox, can I get a seconder? Sierra, any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we're going to move to item 4. The next item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interests. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none, we will move to item 5, which is the adoption of the minutes. The recommendation reads that the minutes of the Community Development and Event Committee meeting held on Monday, June 24, 2024 be adopted as presented. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Cox, can I get a seconder, please? Here, any questions? All those in favor? Carried. So we're moving on to item number 6, which is our terms of reference. The Community Development and Event Committee's terms of reference is information. So the purposes of the terms of reference is to support and plan community events and initiatives throughout the township using council allocated funds. The terms of reference also highlights the mandate, membership, qualifications, terms of office, vacancy, roles and responsibilities, and more. As we have 2 new citizen members of the committee, we have attached this document for reference. Before we move on with the agenda, does anyone have any questions regarding the terms of reference? Okay, seeing none, the proposed 2025 community development, we're going to move on to the meeting schedule now. So the proposed 2025 community development schedule has 7 meeting placeholders in accordance with the term of reference. Please note the meetings can be canceled and additional dates can be scheduled in consultation with the clerk. The recommendation reads that the committee schedule be approved. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Cox, can I get a seconder, please? Sierra? I'd like if we could make a request to the amendment of the proposed 2025 schedule by asking that the next meeting scheduled for May 26, 2025 be amended to Tuesday, May 27, 2025. The recommendation reads that the proposed 2025 Community Development and Event Committee meeting schedule to be amended to change the May 26, 2025 meeting to May 27th, the Tuesday. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Cox, and can I get a seconder? It's here. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. So the main motion will read the following: that the proposed 2025 community development and community meeting schedule be approved as amended. So the main motion was originally moved by Councillor Cox, and the main motion was originally seconded by Sierra. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. So now we're going to move on to the regular business, the Canada Day budget summary. We're going to look at the 2024 event, and we're going to now move to regular business item 6.4, which is this year's event. So in front of you, you'll have our planning document that highlights things that were done in 2024. Maybe we will go through this, and this will be an opportunity to see if we want to continue certain things, what else we'd like to add, and then we will talk about some budgeting, as our total budget for our 2025 Canada Day event is $17,000. So if we start with the planning document for the evening section of it, the first section was, there was in the past 2 years, there's been a kids game section, mini putt, ring toss, beanbag, basketball games. So this was an opportunity for families and children to be able to go to a variety of games. These were games that the Anderson families had purchased and allowed us to use for the event. So again, this section had like 1 or 2 to 3 volunteers, but again, it was kind of, for the most part, most time parents were supervising. So that was an activity area for the kids. We had chips and freezies. This was the last 2 years, and this was something that was really well received. So tickets were handed out at the gate, and each person got a ticket, which they got to choose for chips or freezies. Then we had a section, was a kids section. So we had a coloring contest. We had a age group for 4 to 7 and 8 to 12. So they had an opportunity to color their page at the actual event. And then we had 2 gift baskets that were handed out at a later time. Also at this station, we did a craft station for kids. We had tattoos and bubbles and chalk and a couple of little props for a photo booth. So this was, again, another area that we've had for the last 2 years that was seemed to be well received by families and children. Then we had the fireworks, and we have them confirmed, correct, for this year? And so this year they're confirmed at price of $8,500 for fireworks. So I think it's the same person that we've had the last 2 years. Okay, so that worked out really well. And then we partnered with the fire department to kind of make sure that the area was cleared and they were there for safety reasons. And we also had some caution tapes and T-posts that were up around that area. In the past, we had a municipal vehicle display. We had 2 township vehicles, and we had a public works attendant there. And we also had a police cruiser on display. We also had our fire department partner with us for the event. They had some vehicles here. They also had a public education tent where families could get some information about fire safety, and there were some little tokens for the kids as well. And last year there was talk about setting up a possible obstacle course for kids, but again, it depended on volunteers, and I don't think there wasn't enough volunteers last year to support that. But that's always something we could ask the fire department to see if they have enough volunteers to help support that. Last year, we had a live band. It was the same band that we've had for the last 2 years for sure. I don't know, maybe more. And it was Escape, and they played at the gazebo. So that's something that has not been looked into yet. That will be something we'll discuss and how we decide to proceed. Then we had a raffle. So it was at a table, like our first aid table, and Connor's family, Murphy's Farms, donated 3 baskets, which we used for the raffle. And again, that was something anybody could enter and draw for. Last year, we had 500 township water bottles. They were purchased for the 2023 event, but they didn't arrive in time. So last year, we handed them out at the raffle table, first come, first serve, and they had the Adjala-Tos logo on them. That was something well received, and it was nice that it had the logoing on it too. And then again, it was just that was handed out at the raffle table where it was first come, first serve. Last year, we didn't have any community groups participation, but in the 2023 event, we had the Humane Society and the Everett Scouts. So the next part is just like we have different banners and whatnot and signage for the different stations. So that's stuff that has been purchased and that we'll be able to use again. Last year, we talked about inflatables and a possible obstacle course. However, that didn't come to fruition. Face painting was something else that we had talked about, but it was dependent on high school volunteers and we would purchase the materials. However, we weren't able to get any volunteers from the high school, so that wasn't something that was a part of our event, but something we could consider this year if we're interested and we can get the volunteers. Last year, we briefly looked at additional food options, such as food trucks, but at that current time, they were already booked up. And then we talked about how you would probably need multiple ones due to lineups and that kind of thing. So that did not happen. Last year, we had an art showcase. So this is where it was the first year where we invited our schools within our community to create art. And then the art was displayed at our Canada Day event. And then there was 2 prizes for each age group. So for K to 3 and for 4 to 8. And that was something that was well received. Last year we had Adjala Central and Tosorontio participate. I'm hoping to, if we decide to continue this, I'm hoping to reach out to schools a little earlier and hopefully we can also get the community Christian School and St. James to join in as well. And then the prize baskets, that's what I mentioned that we used for the raffle that was part of Connor had got from Murphy Farms. And then the next part was talking about the layout of the parking lot and how we incorporated additional signage last year for the parking and accessibility parking. And that seemed to work out quite well. I think the big thing was getting volunteers to support that. We also had the advertising. So that was something that was done through the township, helped us coordinate that through social media and the township newsletter at that time. We also had the Aqua water truck on site where we encouraged people to bring a reusable bottle so they could fill up water. We did add some additional lighting last year and ensured that there was more picnic tables out for seating. There was 2 other things that were added. The landmark bus lines paint a bus, and it looks like that's something that they would come and run themselves. And we also had a dance instructor from this area reach out about if some of her students could perform possibly at Canada Day, and there are students that are, most of them attend St. James and Colgan. So that will be something that we can discuss about. So I don't know if we want to kind of discuss things we want to continue, things we want to add, and then we'll look at the opening ceremonies after that, if that makes sense. Do we want to just kind of go through the items and say continue, not continue, and then add any additional?
Did you imagine you volunteered last year as well?
Yes.
Was there anything on this items that was really not used, not really, wasn't really no attraction to it, right? That was kind of like done and have there. Do you feel there's anything?
No, I don't feel that. I think there was a lot of engagement. Mayor Anderson, you were also there.
Sure. I don't think there was, sorry, I should rephrase this. I wasn't up at the municipal grounds at all. I was doing parking the entire evening. But from what I heard, everything was well received. The coloring contest, the kids zone, particularly the crafts and coloring contest and things like that. So I think could be the concept is if there's anything more that we'd like to add to Canada Day to kind of build on what we have. You know, again, seeing around the table, we've got 3 members of the committee here. Volunteers is going to be a struggle, I think, again. So we'd have to keep that in mind when we're looking at some of these activities.
Is there a possibility of like staff being engaged with it with like blue time, or is there be able to put that like they can do overtime to stay?
Through Madam Chair, that discussion could be had with senior staff. Yeah, and I might add we also had the engagement of both the Rosemont and Adjala-Tosorontio Fire Department last year, and they were quite helpful in making sure that if anything did need to happen, they were there to help out as well.
Through the chair, my personal experience is the opening ceremony. I don't know, like, to me there wasn't a lot of attendance to it. I don't know if there's. How did you feel about that, Mayor Anderson? Did you? Because I look at what's done for the opening ceremony, and it's like it wasn't really. I mean, I don't know, maybe was there cake wasted? Like, do we need to get the same size cake? Should we like scale her back a bit, maybe? Right, like.
Through Madam Chair, if I may, my suggestion for this evening would maybe to focus on the evening activities first and see where we can go there. And then I'm looking at potential discussions with staff as to what we could do for opening ceremonies if it is still needed. It's a nice activity to have. We did cut back on refreshments last year, so we were kind of in line with that. To be honest, there was more people here than I expected last year for the opening ceremonies. So I think if there is a unique item that we can highlight, like we did with the amalgamation last year and with the gazebo the year before, if there's something we can highlight, I think there's an opportunity to do something. If there's not, then I would say we would reconsider having a daytime ceremony and just focusing on the evening activities. So if that's agreeable to the committee, I would just say focus on the evening activities for this evening and start planning those details first. And then we can circle back to the other items.
That sounds like a fair plan. So maybe we'll just quickly go through the items to confirm, because there was a couple things we've had in the past that didn't last year just because of coordination to see if we wanted or not. So the games, keeping that as a section that seemed to work well. Please stop me if it's something you want to discuss or share about. Chips and freezies, do we want to continue with that as being the food source? And again, they'll purchase, everyone will get a ticket. So the kids zone area, which was the coloring contest, crafts, tattoos, bubbles, chalk, photo booth area. Fireworks, which is already booked. What about the municipal vehicle display? Last year we had the 2 township vehicles and one public work attendant, and then OPP. I know kids like that opportunity to touch a truck, that kind of.
Madam Chair, if I may on this one as well, just to comment, I think they do work well. The OPP cruiser was kind of an added at the last minute. They had more staff here for at the gates, so they sent one up to the parking lot. So I think there's some opportunity to engage with the OPP to do that again, or maybe even maybe a motorcycle. The fire department, and I would be remiss, we did have 2 staff members last year. One was looking after that touch a truck from Public Works. And I think that's a great opportunity for families and children to see the trucks, get pictures, get in the trucks, and see what kind of equipment we have. So if you're comfortable, I think that's something that we could continue with, and I'd be happy to have a discussion with us to what vehicles we could have on display.
The chair, further to that, do you know if one member was enough to ensure they weren't like run thin with too many kids running around, too many trucks, or they maybe incentivize having more than one staff member with that many vehicles on display so that
Through Madam Chair, yes, it didn't matter too much last year with the two vehicles. I think we had a grader and a tandem. So the grader would be the issue because of course the blade's on the ground at the time when you're getting into the vehicles. So I think that's where staff were focused. The OPP were of course looking after their own vehicles. So I think there's an opportunity to have additional resources there. But I think, you know, if you're going to pick the vehicles that you're going to have someone on, then certainly those ones that are more maybe in a more dangerous hazard prone for sure, especially with the grader, right? When you have to actually step on the blade to get up to the vehicle.
The partnership with the fire departments, and as Mayor Anderson mentioned, we had both Rosemont and Adjala-Tos there, which was great to have. Is this something we'd like to see again?
Yep.
It'd be nice if we could see, ask maybe when we do reach out to the fire chief or the fire department is regarding maybe the volunteers about that kiddie obstacle course. Maybe, I know last year was kind of more last minute kind of thing. If we could, they could see maybe in advance, if that would be possible. I think the kids would really like that. So the band, I know this was something that Deputy Mayor Laux had kind of been in charge of the last 2 years. And that was kind of like our entertainment. I don't know what our thoughts are or where we'd like to go with this.
Well, I think a band is, through the chair, I think the band is a great addition to it. I think that there are a lot of local artists that maybe we could switch it up and get a new artist that could perform here. Maybe a couple of them, right?
Is there anyone that may have contacts or would like to maybe take that piece on?
I know of a couple that I could reach out to. And whether we want one or two, our budget is estimated to cost $1,000 for the night.
That's what it was last year. Like we do, our overall budget for Canada Day is 17,000. We're right now sitting around 12,500. So we do have room if it is more. I like the idea of the local talent and maybe possible multiple ones to showcase that. I think you had mentioned that here at the last one, right? So Councillor Cox, is that something you think you could maybe possibly look into for us? Last year, as we mentioned, Connor was able to get the 3 baskets through Murphy's Farms. I don't know if we want to reach out to see if this is something Connor is able to do again, or if there's other places we could reach out to what are your thoughts? It was nice. The raffle piece is just that opportunity to, you know, everyone have that equal chance of getting something and at no cost, really. I think that was the nice thing about the event.
Madam Chair, I think Connor's family would probably be more than willing to do it again. And I think also there's other farm businesses in our municipality that may be interested in donating something. So I think there's some opportunity. And I can reach out to some of those as well to see if they'd be willing to donate.
Okay, I'll reach out to Connor to see about Murphy's Farms. And Mayor Anderson, you said you'd reach out to a few that you knew, local farms?
Correct.
Okay, so the last year I told you about the water bottles. That was something that we had from the following year, but it was something really nice, that opportunity to get something for free, but also had the branding on it, which was nice. I think we did go through all bottles too. We had handed everything out, which was good. And again, that was like a first come, first serve basis. So I don't know if we want to think of do something similar, maybe a different item. What are your thoughts?
I think if the bottles were well received, just keep it status quo, right? I imagine that you're able to get it's a fairly low cost item that is with the township logo on it. Yeah, probably more of them. That's more of a usable day-to-day product and not just some junk that you get at the Canada Day thing and then throw out later.
Madam Chair, if I might just go through to the clerk's department. So I know there is economic development funding available for the municipality too. Is that something that we could look into for the committee, if that's something that would be an item that we could purchase through that?
Through the chair to the committee, I'm just pulling up the budget. My understanding is the economic development funds. Let me just double check the 2025 budget.
So Madam Chair, if we do have some funding available, whether it's this budget or another budget, I think we could look at purchasing some items for handouts.
I like the idea of something that's versatile, that those going to have purpose, right? That it's in terms of numbers. Last year we had 500. Do we want to stick around 500? Do you want to go higher? What do you think? Of 500?
Did we fall short last year? Because I did hear that we had more of an more than what we expected it. So I think maybe we should bump that up a bit if we can.
So through the chair, the township may have some economic development funds available, but just having a quick look here, branded water bottles for about 500 does run about $1,000, which is a significant portion of any township funding towards a promotional item like this. So I would recommend that if you were, that you would stick around the 500 bottle number.
So based on the pricing and the recommendation from the clerk, do we want to stay then at the $500 or 500, sorry, amount this time? Okay. So the other part was community groups. So not this past one, but in 2023, we did have some community groups, the Humane Society and the Scouts, and they were also kind of down on that tarmac area, kind of where the kids were. So they had an opportunity to highlight some of their work within the community. I don't know if this is something we would like to add or bring back this year. What are your thoughts?
Through the chair, I think the Scouts are always a good grow guides as well. Grow guides. I think an event like that's good for the kids if they're able to get out here and showcase organization. Is that something that for community groups, would that be something that the township could, either post on social media saying, hey, if you have a community group, or do we have to reach out to them directly rather than leaving the ball in their court to reach out to us? Right?
Yeah. Because I think that was kind of the thing last year, that there was kind of a breakdown of communication between.
Now we have a communications officer. Would that be something we could post saying Canada Day looking for community groups that are interested in showcasing their organization at our Canada Day celebrations? Just a simple social media post, and if you get bites, you go with it. If not, then we at least say we tried.
Through the chair to Councillor Cox. Our communications officer will be attending the May meeting to walk you through the advertising campaign for Canada Day. In terms of the community groups, we can do a social media post, but I do think it is more effective for this type of event if the committee was to directly reach out to those community groups, let them know what you're doing, what your aims are, is to host a really great community event where people are going to be here from across the community. I think you'll find that you would get more people participating that way. But of course, if the committee would like, we can do a social media post for that.
Through the chair to the clerk. I agree. Like reaching out to them directly is always beneficial. The problem is I don't know all the groups, right? Like there's probably some out there that, you know, are unique or like maybe small that aren't known. That's the only reason why I suggest it, because everybody knows Scouts or Girl Guides, but maybe there's another one that's like, hey, I didn't know.
Madam Chair to Councillor Cox. So we do have a running list that we could use, that we do use for our newsletter when we reach out to community groups to get events. So we could share that list with you so that you have a full running list of the groups that we usually collaborate with.
Beneficial.
I wonder if we'd kind of do a combination of each, like reach out on social media, but also then reach out to the list of people that you have. So then again, it opens it up to that inclusivity part, because I do like that idea, because I think social media is a great way to reach out and to just a different audience as well, if that's something the committees.
Through the chair, could it also be small business? Somebody wants to have a tent or represent their small business, local business, have to be in Adjala-Tos, that they would be able to showcase their like self-promotion there? Or would that get a little overboard? I don't want to like fill it full of, make it some sort of like flea market.
I think it'd be become the issue, Madam Chair, would through you, would be to where do you stop and so, you know, you may get some people that are interested and then we run out of space, and then others are saying, well, you can't, if you're going to do it for one, you have to do it for the other. I think sticking to like not-for-profits and community groups would be better. Now, just to showcase, we're trying to make it a community event showcasing what's available in our community. And if that helps, you know, a user group or Scouts or Girl Guides grow in numbers because somebody's seeing them here, I think it'd be a better way of attracting that to the community. That's just my thoughts.
And if I may, Madam Chair, through you to the committee, I would just add that Nottawasaga Futures does a lot of work with our small businesses in the community. So perhaps they would be able to participate that day and they could do that economic development promotion on our behalf.
That's perfect.
So is there anyone that would like to take on reaching out to the different community groups that the township has a list of, to just invite them to attend?
Madam Chair, I can do that as well.
The next part is the banners and signs, which we have all of that. The inflatables, I guess we want to make a decision if this is something we want to look into, not look into, or if there's an alternative option.
Through the chair, as a parent, I don't like inflatables. There's like hazard prone setups that are like, yeah, I'm not a big inflatable person. Kids sometimes have fun on them, but they get injured and then they ruin the day. I think keeping the risk level low is more beneficial, and other things for them to do. So I would be against that first.
Madam Chair, if we're keeping the same times as last year from 7 to 10 p.m., I think we need to be focused on what items we can accomplish during that time. If we were looking at doing more of an afternoon event, then I would say yes, inflatables are something to keep families entertained. But when families are coming in at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, they only have 1 or 2 hours here before the fireworks start. And I think we just need to focus on some of those items. I would say though, if there's an opportunity to reach out to, I'm not sure if there are any more amusement or game providers to provide a bit more than just the ones that we had in the past. I think there could be an opportunity. I don't know if anybody on the committee knows of anyone who's in that type of business. We might be late to that already, but I'm just thinking if there's an opportunity, some of these users, unless it's cost prohibited, most of these, companies who do that provide somebody on site to actually look after their items too. So then that would alleviate the volunteerism aspect for that section too.
With the chair, just brainstorming, would like a street performer be something that keeps people kind of like engaged to watch, and maybe it's on the juggles, or it's something wild out there. That similar to how like Alison Potato Festival, they have that one section where it's just like a street performer, and while you're waiting to see the fireworks, it's like kind of visual entertainment that'll keep the young population kind of engaged and watching, and be like amazed at the same time, right?
I did come across some where was I? I'm looking, can't remember even where it was. I think there's some opportunities there. If there's something more that we could, maybe that's another item that we could put out there to see if anyone knows of any street performers or magic shows, things like that.
Yeah. Fun to watch for all ages, right?
Yeah.
And really low risk, but still really entertaining in the time frames that we have.
Does anyone have any contacts or interested in maybe taking that on and looking into different options?
I can look into it, but I don't have any contacts.
And then the other question would become then budget. Is there a budget number we'd want to put to that? Or just, again, get the feelers out there to see what that kind of dollar value would be.
Because could we technically add that in at the next one? If you were able to get some idea of that if we do have leeway with the budget, or do we need a number on that tonight?
Well, through the chair, was there anything reserved for inflatables obstacle course? Was that ever, I know it didn't follow through, but was there a budget ever like kind of allocated to it that never?
Not that I recall.
We can see what the cost is. Just like inquire and just see what the cost is, and we can bring it. I can either send it in an email for our next meeting, and just go from there.
No, I think that's fair.
Through the chair, maybe perhaps advertising to the social media, that will probably help as well. That's an area I think that definitely we should, definitely utilize.
Mm-hmm.
And having, volunteers, whoever, sees the social messages that they can show there.
Share that post to somebody.
Correct, yeah,
correct,
yeah.
I totally agree. I think that's a good idea. Is this something that the communications team can support us with?
So the communications coordinator through you, Chair, will be in attendance at the next meeting. That's something we can definitely address to the communications coordinator to see if she can advertise that. I don't know if Robin would like to add to that.
Through Madam Chair to the committee. No, I agree. So in terms of advertising, in terms of for volunteers in the event itself, that's definitely something that the communications officer can assist with. And she'll be here in May at the May meeting to speak to that.
I guess the only thing I worry about, because the next meeting's not till May 27th, that some of these opportunities will be already booked up by that time. That's the only thing I'm kind of. So Councillor Cox, is any information that you can get, if you can, just
Yeah, I'll
add
just
in
circulate. I'll
the
just
talk or
circulate it,
share
and
out
if if I'm successful, then there will be no need for the communications officer to circulate anything. If it's like a good cost and is received by the committee, there'd be no need for it. So I think that could just be left in my court for now, and I'll just do my best. It's just like, it's an added thing. So if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, well, you're still getting good fireworks.
The next thing, we had talked about this last year, but unfortunately we weren't able to get volunteers through the high school, was adding to the kids section with some face painting. So we were hoping to get maybe 4 volunteers from the high school that could do just a simple face, it's like a little thing on, nothing elaborate, but something quick on their little face if they're interested in doing that. So again, the cost to the committee would just be the face paint if we wanted to do that. I suggest we probably reach out to the high school sooner than later about securing any students that are interested in volunteering for the event. What are your thoughts on this activity?
Through the chair, I think it's a great idea, but once again, I think that from 7 till 10, I don't know if they'll really, like, they'll get their face painted and then it'll be dark out. So, I don't think you'll really see it. If it was more of like a daytime thing, might be more beneficial. But I think people are going to get there, get settled, and just be waiting for the fireworks. So I don't know if it would be worth going, given our strict time frame, like 3 hours, right?
To the chair, just a quick question. The high school students, do they not have to work some sort of community hours as well still?
Yeah, I think, yes, they do.
Can they utilize the hours that they volunteer for this program, for that day as part of their hours?
That was my understanding. I'm not 100% sure, but
Maybe perhaps if we can reach out to the schools to, give them that opportunity for those students that need the additional hours, or we can utilize them as volunteers is what I'm suggesting.
Yeah. I'm happy. I can reach out to the high school here to see if they can have any volunteers that could support us that night. I think we kind of talked about this a little bit. I know we talked about continuing with the chips and freezies. Do we want any additional food options, or are we happy with just the chips and freezies?
Through the chair, I think that the additional food options are just a little bit, I've been to events where they only have one food truck, and it's very frustrating when you're waiting that long just for just a snack. So I don't, once again, if it was a longer time frame, from noon on, I think that'd be something great to look at to make sure there's food available. But for 3 hours, most people have ate before they came or are bringing food.
I think the chips and freezies went over really well the last 2 years, and everyone seemed happy.
Yeah, well, kid doesn't like chips and freezies. Right? Even adults, I love them.
What are your thoughts about continuing the art showcase that we started last year, the partnering with schools, and then incorporating prizes for those 2 divisions this year? I was kind of thinking changing up maybe slightly the focus and possibly reaching out to schools earlier, but it was a nice display where a lot of kids were able to come and see their work displayed in the little tents. So it's nice to partner with schools in our community. We were trying to think of like how the Beaton Fair has that opportunity to submit art and whatnot and partner with schools. So is this something we'd like to continue with? Okay.
Yeah, through the chair, I think that's a wonderful idea. That's the kids showcase their art. They can feel good about themselves. I see nothing wrong with that. I would support. I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of reach out to them more ASAP now. So instead of a little later in May, to hopefully then even they can start on that now, or if they have time.
Madam Chair, through you to the committee, I just want to mention to the committee, which has just occurred to me while you're discussing this, is in our upcoming June newsletter, we do have a kids corner, and this year we are including a coloring page that we are encouraging children to send in once completed, and that we would promote it. We could change the language of that in the newsletter and say they could send it in as their submission to the Canada Day event, if that would help facilitate the art showcase.
I think that-
Or if you just want to stick strictly with reaching out to the schools, but I just thought I would mention it.
To the clerk, I really like that idea because then it just promotes more, maybe the parents that don't get the messaging through the schools, because again, it's shared with administration, then shared with educators, and that will depend on classes. So I think that's a great way, especially because we're going to have the coloring contest event there that night. And this could help to support and bring in more art for the showcase. So I think that would be, I was kind of thinking of the focus K-3, what does Canada mean to you? So kind of continue that for that age group again. And grade 4 to 8 was like iconic Canadian symbols. So
yeah, so what we could do is we could advertise that. And then you said there's going to be a coloring contest. So for the newsletter, we were doing kind of a summer scene. I'm actually providing the coloring sheet directly in the newsletter. So would you like that to be more for the coloring contest? And then we can just do a blurb saying if you want a submission for the art showcase, these are the themes.
Because I think it worked well having the coloring contest there that night and then did that. So if we could maybe use that as an opportunity to build on the showcase, them submitting their art for that, and leave the coloring contest to like the evening event. So there's not that confusion or crossover between the two things. That makes sense. Because if you have a page in mind or whatnot, like usually we did a page for age 4 to 7, and then we did one for 8 to 12. So if you have something in mind that could be the night that we used for the coloring contest.
Sure, yeah, that's no problem. Sorry, I just want to make sure I have this right for the newsletter. So you want us just to include a blurb saying that there's going to be an art showcase and these are the themes? Or do you want us to actually provide a coloring sheet? Because we'd only have space to provide one coloring sheet for all age groups within the newsletter. If we did 2 for each separate one, it just would take up too many pages within the newsletter.
I think it would be nice, this is just my opinion, is to use the showcase part of it for the newsletter and then leave the coloring contest to like the evening event, which we had in the past. That seemed to be really well. And it was something that helped to put in the time for families where they could come and go and complete the coloring during that time.
So you're suggesting them color while they're here?
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past, and it seems to have worked well. We've got multiple entries.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I gave them something to do that was in
Yeah.
a little extended period of time, something that was simple, and I think it helped to put in parts of the evening for families. They come, they go, they come back, and again, the page wasn't elaborated or too many details. It was something that they could color within that short period. Something that was more for primary versus some of the older children that wanted to spend an extended period of time. So
Yeah, you can tell them, don't rush, take your time.
So I just found like that's usually where I spend most of my time, and that was something that seemed to really work well. And then they had the opportunity for a craft, or so it was. I think keeping it at the evening event, the coloring might work the best. And I think maybe this will maybe bring out more art for the showcase, because I know last year we had Adjala-Tosorontio schools participate. So again, if this is reaching out and more of that inclusivity fact, and then some families that may not get the message, or because again, when we're through the schools, it'll all depend on educator participation and whatnot. So I think this is a great way to maybe highlight the art showcase and that they bring in the art. So I can kind of share with you what that, like with the little blurb, the focus area, if that works.
Yeah, and then we can include that blurb in the newsletter that's going out. I would just need that in the next coming days, because we are going to be sending it to the printer hopefully by the end of the week.
Okay.
Now, if I may, through to staff, just to Robin, what was the intention then for the coloring page in the newsletter? Because I'm just thinking, is that something that if we did have a submission date to the municipality by a certain date, we could display on the evening as well here? Because I'm assuming somebody was going to judge these and there was something, or what was the intention behind this?
We were just, in our last newsletter, we did like a word search. So this time we were going to do a coloring sheet, and we were just asking residents to send them into communications at Adjala-Tos, and we were just going to display them on our social media because they were fun summer scenes. But we are doing a section of the newsletter. We are advertising the Canada Day event, so we can include a blurb about the art showcase that's going on, and then we can just leave our kids' corner separate and kind of out of any of the Canada Day promotion.
Okay, thank you.
So the prize basket, I think we kind of talked about that. I'll reach out to Connor, and then Mary Anderson's going to reach out to a couple of local farming places. Any thoughts regarding parking? I know you have a little bit of an overview of what was done last year. I know this was a place that needed volunteers, so it ended up some of our, like I know the mayor, he spent a lot of time most of the night there, and so again, there was an area that needed volunteers, and I think that was kind of an area of struggle last year, to be honest. In terms of like the parking lot layout and everything, Mayor Anderson, maybe you can speak to, are we happy with how it went? Any changes that need to be made?
Yeah, through Madam Chair, it went fine. We parked a lot of cars in the lot. I think there's some opportunity to just streamline where we're actually going to be utilizing parking, because we did bring a lot of vehicles up to the south end of the building last year to accommodate the vehicles coming in. So I think we'd have to just look at that layout again just to confirm that we're okay. With our new well drilled on the other location, it should be better because now we're not actually having that impacted. And then the other item would just be, as you mentioned, would be the volunteers. I believe we had 4 to 5 individuals helping out last year, and that's minimum. But like for what was that? I think 700, 800 vehicles we parked there last year. You know, somebody at the gate, which was myself, handing out tickets, and then 1 to kind of get the vehicles where they need to go, and 2 parking them is at the minimum. So I think there's some opportunities there if we can find more volunteers. And again, I would hesitate to say that I wouldn't want to be using high school volunteers, but if there's an opportunity where we can partner with you know, Lions Club or another service group potentially to come out and help us out, I think that'd be an awesome opportunity for them as well. So maybe I'll just leave that there, and if we can find volunteers, I think that's the goal of the committee, would be to try to engage as many volunteers as we can. And I think if everybody takes that on their plate and says, hey, do we know of anybody that would come out, then we can all ask and see what we get.
You know, the advertising we kind of touched based on, and the communications will be a part of that next month. The water truck. Can I refer to staff? Is that something that I think has already been put into place?
Through you, Chair. So I have contacted the Public Works Department regarding the water truck, and they are working on securing that.
Thank you. I think last year we did add some additional lighting. Was that correct, Mary Anderson?
Unfortunately, not last year, but the year before we did.
Okay.
It seems to work fine. It's just that, again, the north section or the south section of the building does tend to get a bit dark, especially when people are leaving at 10:45 after the fireworks. But I think it does work fine, and I think if there's an opportunity, we might be able to engage with the fire department again to see if they have their lights on their vehicles that can provide some additional lighting on the back section.
And then last year it was just kind of, we put more tables, I think, around the gazebo area where the music was. One of the new parts was about paint a bus for the landmark bus lines. Is this something we would like to add?
I think it's a good idea. It's a nice activity to have.
Mm-hmm.
Janice, do you have a line on that, or is this something
There is an email address. I can reach out to them if this is something we want to pursue.
Through the chair, I agree. There's no harm in it.
Okay, I'll reach out. And then the opportunity, I think it was Palak, they reached out to you about the dance. Maybe I'll let you speak to that.
That's correct. So the individual actually reached out to a fellow staff member. I can liaise with the community member that had reached out regarding the dance girls, and whether or not it's something the committee would like to pursue further.
Through the chair, I think she reached out, and then maybe they could perform in the gazebo area if it's available. After the performer's done or before the performer starts, just a little short term so they can get up on stage and perform. I see no harm in it, especially if they're already reaching out, right?
I wonder if it'd be better to do at the beginning of the evening, because I think you had mentioned they're 6 to 9 year olds, so maybe.
Yeah, at the beginning before the band or whatever sets up.
And let them.
Give them their moment to shine, right?
Just on that item, Madam Chair, I think the concern, or not, there's no concern there. I think it would just be reaching out to this group and seeing what they would actually be comfortable with and letting them decide how they would want to proceed, whether they want to do it early on, later, mid time. Perhaps maybe they would want to use the frontier of the building as a bit of a stage rather than the gazebo or something. So there'd be different areas. But I think if there is a contact, then maybe having them kind of explain what they would like to do, and then we could fit it in where we could.
So Palak, is this you going to reach out then?
Definitely, I can reach out to Monica and let her know about the decision and discuss this further regarding how
What that will.
will look like. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so is there anything new or anything else we would like to add to the evening part? I think we went through the different sections and.
I thought Councillor Cox was going to volunteer to be dunked in the dunk tank. I thought that he was considering that.
Thought about it, but I would be too busy volunteering with parking and stuff.
And just, Madam Chair, I just wanted to comment just back to the fire department for a moment. I had a discussion early on with the chief about what other opportunities they could do for more of a display. And so I think they have some other ideas there, but I'll circle back on that to see if they did have any, whether that be a obstacle course, or they were talking about maybe even a vehicle where they could come in and extricate, so show some of their fancy tools off.
Sounds good.
Through the chair, overall, I think we got a pretty event packed night. I don't know what else to add into that. And so far from what I've heard is past years has gone over really well. And with the lack of volunteers, it's hard to add. So I think we should just keep what we've got here and see how it goes. And then maybe next year for hey, you know what? We do have a good connection for volunteers. Maybe the school it's got engaged or the community's engaged to volunteer. Then we can further add to it and maybe make it a little longer for more events. But I think for now, what we got's enough.
Okay, so do we want, I know we had said we were just kind of focusing on the evening one for now. Is that suffice then for this meeting? to just focus on the evening events? Or did you want to look at the opening ceremonies?
I think just the evening events tonight.
Okay, perfect.
I think through the chair, I think Mayor Anderson said he's going to have discussions about that. And we can talk that at the next meeting.
Yeah, and I think just going back to that, I think the opportunity is if there's something we can highlight, it's a great event to do. If not, we could always add something to our evening activities to do more of an official ceremony if that case arose.
I like that idea too. That's. So now just so we're going to put a couple of motions regarding budget. So again, this is just kind of preliminary tonight, and then we can make additions to it at our following meetings. So this is, so first, that the community development and event committee allocate a total of $8,500 for the committee's annual budget for fireworks at the 2025 Canada Day event. So that event or that amount is confirmed. That the community development and event committee allocate a total of $1,400 for the committee's annual budget for portable toilet rentals at the 2020 Canada Day event. And I just want to confirm that has been confirmed. Has that been secured too?
Through you, Chair, that has been secured. I confirmed with Public Works this morning.
Perfect, thank you. That the community and event committee allocate a total. Last year, we had $1,200 allocated for chips, freezes, and cake. I don't know if we want to go a little bit higher this year or if we want to stay status quo. I know sometimes prices change a bit, if we want to get a bit extra.
Chair, I'd be okay with going a little extra. It's for the kids, right?
So do we want to go like 1,500 then?
Sounds good.
That the committee development and event committee allocate a total value of $1,500 for the committee's annual budget for food. That's including chips, freezes, and cake at the 2025 Canada Day event. Next, that the community development event committee allocate a total of $200 from the annual committee budget to create prize baskets for the coloring contest and the school art showcase for the 2025 Canada Day event. That the community development and event committee allocate a total of $300. That was from the annual budget for individual honorariums. That was part of the opening ceremonies. I think last year we provided an honorarium to the piper, to the singer, and then the minister. So I know we didn't really touch on opening ceremonies. I don't know if we want to leave that off or if we want to put it in, and we can always amend it at the next one.
Madam Chair, I'd just say leave it in and we can utilize those funds if another area, if they don't become available there.
Okay. So the committee development and event committee allocates a total of $300 for the committee's annual budget for individual honorariums for the 2025 Canada Day event, and that the community development and event committee obtain a band to provide a list of music or bands at the 2025 Canada Day event. We had allocated $1,000. I think that was the cost the last 2 years. Do we want to keep that or do we want to go a little bit higher? I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
I think for the band portion, I think that's suffice for me. Anyways, I think if you're getting a band, you can spend $1,000 on them for the night. I think it's a pretty good gig for one night.
Okay, so the community development and event committee obtains a band to provide music, live music at the 2025 Canada Day event at the cost of $1,000, funded from the committee's annual budget. Can I get a mover, please, for these items? Councillor Cox, can I get a seconder, please? Seer, any questions? All those in favor? Carried. The next, I'll ask the deputy clerk to provide a brief summary of the role of the event chair.
So as per the committee's terms of reference, we will need to appoint an event chair for the 2025 Canada Day event. The event chair will lead the committee in the planning and organizing of the event. The event chair will also provide direction and assign tasks when necessary and coordinate the execution of the event.
Are you interested?
Sure. Okay. Yes, I would be happy to. So am I fine to read this then? Okay. The recommendation reads that Janice Whiteside be appointed as the chair of the Canada Day event for 2025. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Cox, can I get a seconder, please? Seer, any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Our next section was any new business items that we wanted to bring up in addition to Canada Day things. Okay, not seeing any at this time. The chair is going to adjourn the meeting at 7:08 p.m.